Alright, what's happening, y'all, man? It's your boy Rico from Street Scores, and Terry McLaurin had an excellent presser. Might I say, one of the best pressers I've seen from a Washington Commander, football team player, Redskin player, whatever, since I've been alive. And so we're going to break down a lot of the things that he said, because it's not just the humility of it and how great of a speech it was, but he said a lot of little things, like he's about to go work out with Carson Wentz immediately. He spoke about how Rivera assured him the whole way through the process that the deal would get done. A lot of really interesting things to take away from that. And then, of course, probably the main reason you're here for this video is we're going to break down all of the guys that the Washington Commanders may end up trying to pay next. We already got Jonathan Allen, we got Chase Roulier, we got Logan Thomas, and now Terry McLaurin, just to name a few. But who's next up? Whose contracts are expiring the soonest, and who are our biggest priorities? And is it realistic or not that we may sign one of these guys? But before we dive into all of that, make sure you subscribe to the channel, hit the bell next to the subscription button so you get notification immediately. And every time I release an informative and opinionated video just like this one, make sure you go become a channel member for the film sessions I'm about to start getting out there. Also, go join the best Washington Commander fan base Discord doing it. The link is in my community tab, and I'm also going to add it to the description of this video. So definitely go join that Discord. If you're trying to find me, you'll more than likely catch me on there, along with my Twitter, of course, at Street Scores ATL. And without further ado, man, let's get it. Alright, so first of all, before we dive into all of the really interesting things that we can take away from the presser, we still got to talk about some of the great things from the presser. So first of all, McLaurin said that he cried some real tears after the deal got done. He thought about everything that he's had to overcome throughout his career. And man, us as the Washington Commander fan base, we know. I'm pretty sure he's had to go through way more than what we know. But on the surface is what we know as fans watching from the outside looking in. We already know he's been through a lot, and it's probably way worse and way more in depth than we could even think of. I mean, even just the story that the first time he tried out for Ohio State, Urban Meyer basically told him go back home and catch 200 balls a day because you're not where we need you to be at to join the team yet. And somebody recently came out with a story that basically said that that was slightly false because Urban Meyer was way more rude about it and that he really didn't want to bring Terry McLaurin back at all. And the guy that was reporting it basically pleaded with Urban Meyer to give Terry McLaurin another chance. But either way, Terry McLaurin, I mean, has been the underdog his entire career, even since before the NFL, even going to Ohio State, even coming out of the draft. We drafted him in the 3rd round, and everybody was higher on Paris Campbell than Terry McLaurin. We thought he was just going to be a gunner, a special teams guy. And then, like last year, you had people saying that he wasn't a #1 receiver. Even some people in our fan bases were saying it. And then you have people out here leaving him outside of the top 100 NFL players in the league, leaving him out of the top 15 receivers in the league. And I strongly disagree with all of those points. Either way, man, this man has been severely underrated his whole way up, and now he's finally got rewarded with the money that he deserves. And speaking of the money that he deserves, he said that now he gets the chance to support his parents and maybe help them retire. After they looked after him growing up, he called it surreal. So all of that is great. Now we're getting to the points that we can take away from this. So Terry McLaurin said, on as far as missing practices during this holdout, he said, quote, "It was weird. I don't miss practice. I know how important those reps are. That was really hard for me, but you understand the business and what has to happen," unquote. He said the support from his teammates was big from him. So there's multiple things to take from that. First of all, you knew, I mean, I knew it as a fan. I'm not sure how many of y'all knew it, but I know just by Terry McLaurin's personality, him missing practices, especially mandatory minicamp, was killing him inside. Shouts out to the Washington Commanders for not finding him while doing so, but it just didn't make sense for him to show up. Granted, it was mandatory, but the only thing that could happen would be him suffering a crazy injury, and now he lost a lot of leverage, and he's going to end up getting paid way less than what he just got paid. There was literally nothing to gain from showing up to mandatory minicamps from his point of view. So I fully understood why he held out. And again, I mean, he even just said it. Missing practices was very weird for him. He's the guy that does every single thing right on and off the field, especially. Says all of the right things, does all of the right things, leader on the field, all of that type of stuff. So him missing mandatory practices definitely did kill him inside a little bit. But the fact that he had the support from Ron Rivera, which we're going to talk about soon, and his teammates, like he said, helped them get through it. And that's love. I mean, the fact that a lot of the teammates stepped up to let him know, hey, man, we understand what you're going through. Do your thing. Get your money. Do what you got to do to get your money, and you all right with us, man. We do not care about you missing practices. We prefer you here, but man, you got to do what you got to do to get that check, man. And not even just teammates. Terry McLaurin said he's talked to Doug Williams and Gary Clark on being a leader and helping build a good culture on the field. And my boy Ivory brought up a good point that, like, Terry McLaurin hasn't necessarily been the biggest vocal leader on the team. He's been more so leading by action than voice. Like, do as I do and you'll be straight type of thing. But now, ever since he signed that contract, I can definitely see a little bit more charisma in him, and I think he's actually going to be one of the more vocal leaders on the team. He may never be as loud as Chase Young, but I can definitely see him stepping up as an actual leader that's not only just leading with his actions, but also leading with his words. Because so far, it's basically just emulate everything Terry McLaurin does. Now, I'm pretty sure he's actually going to go up to people and talk to them consistently and really step up as the vocal leader that Ron Rivera probably hoped he'd be the whole entire time anyway. McLaurin also said that he's repeatedly said how he wants people to be honest with him. That's what drives him and makes him better. Way too many people, not just athletes, just want to be told nice things. The truth is what matters, so he loves all criticism. Honest, not honest, whatever, and I love that about him for sure. McLaurin also said that his career took off when he focused on improving his weaknesses as a receiver, sought out honest evaluations, and now look at him, 3 years, $71 million contract extension. McLaurin also spoke about Rivera and what part he played in the entire process and contract negotiations and everything. Definitely culture changing that Terry McLaurin trusted Ron Rivera, and the fact that Ron Rivera went out of his way to constantly contact Terry McLaurin during contract negotiations. Ron Rivera didn't really have any part in the actual contract negotiations, but he constantly checked up on Terry McLaurin, make sure everything was okay, and to constantly reassure him that we're gonna get this deal done. And the proof is in the pudding. The deal got done, so Rivera definitely deserves some points from that. But Terry McLaurin said on working with Rivera in the process, he said, quote, "You never know until you know, but I always had a feeling this would get done," unquote, and that's largely because of Ron Rivera. Terry McLaurin said Ron Rivera called him even before the deal got done to emphasize that the deal was a priority. McLaurin said Rivera took time out of his day to talk to him. He appreciated that the head coach was so willing to hear where he was at mentally through that whole process. He always had a good feeling a deal would get done. Terry mentioned one phone call with Ron Rivera following an off-season practice where Ron really heard him out and gave Terry the feeling that an extension was coming. For some of Ron's faults, sounds like he stepped up big in these negotiations. Terry McLaurin also said he heard a lot from Jonathan Allen and Logan Thomas throughout the contract negotiations, and they called a lot just to check up on them. And those two are very significant specifically because both of those guys are guys that have recently gotten contract extensions under this Ron Rivera regime. Not just the Washington franchise, specifically Ron Rivera and guys. So I think that is big. And then Terry McLaurin spoke about how he's going to hop on a flight right after this. That's literally his exact quote, speaking about how he's leaving the presser to meet up with Carson Wentz to get in the throwing session out in California, like immediately after the presser. So I'm pretty sure since that presser happened yesterday, as in Wednesday, they've already gotten some throws in, some catches in, and that's big. I mean, granted, they're not going to really gain too much chemistry until they're out there in pads and stuff during training camp, but I'm glad that Terry McLaurin went out to California immediately to go meet up with Carson Wentz. I mean, literally the day he put pen to paper to sign the contract extension, that same day, he's flying from the DMV to California to catch passes from his new quarterback. Also heard that other receivers are going along with Antonio Gibson. Haven't heard Jahan Dotson's name specifically, but I'm assuming he's going if all of the other receivers are going, and even Antonio Gibson. And at the same time, I don't know why they're all going to Carson Wentz. Why doesn't Carson Wentz just come to the DMV? But whatever. He's the quarterback, I guess. I mean, I don't think he's done enough, first of all, here specifically, but just in his career in general, to where he gets to dictate everybody come to Cali to him. But it's whatever. I'm just glad everybody's together. If they're not complaining, I'm not complaining. Terry McLaurin's first game in the NFL was in Philly versus the Eagles, who were led by Carson Wentz, and he said that he remembers being almost enamored by how Carson Wentz threw the ball deep and how he stood tough in the pocket. So Terry McLaurin's been watching Carson Wentz for a while. Again, his first game ever in the NFL in his entire career was against the Eagles, and he got to see Carson Wentz in person from the sidelines. And what he's been going through with quarterbacks, I can definitely understand why since then he's been looking forward to catching passes from Carson Wentz from what he's had to deal with all of the previous 8 quarterbacks he's been throwing passes from. Terry McLaurin, when asked about playing with his 9th QB since entering the league, said his goal is to make them look good, unquote. He added that Carson Wentz is, quote, somebody I've connected with on a very personal level, unquote, and that Wentz checked in in on him regularly throughout free agency. So ever since Carson Wentz signed here, he had been checking up on Terry McLaurin and seeing where he's at. But one of the most interesting parts of that quote is that Terry McLaurin likes to make the quarterback look good. His primary goal is being quarterback friendly, and that's huge, man, because there's a lot of little nuanced route running, turning your head at certain points, catching the ball a certain way, things that do make you quarterback friendly. And the fact that that's his main goal, I can see him having a crazy statistical season this year, and Carson Wentz looking like maybe potentially his 2017 self with somebody like that out there catching passes for him. And then also after Terry McLaurin's presser, Ron Rivera had a presser, and the most notable thing to me was that Ron Rivera reiterated that Washington isn't done getting contract extensions with current players. Says some of the deals might be next offseason, but there's a 3-year plan in place. Rivera says getting the McLaurin deal done was a huge step, and now it's time to move on to the next guys. Which, first of all, I'm excited about the fact that you're supposed to, when you're running an NFL team, you're supposed to plan things in like a 3 to 5 year span. It's not year by year. You gotta look, okay, if we sign this guy this year, can we pay this guy 3 years from now type of thing? You gotta plan it like that. You gotta match it up like that. And I'm glad that they are actually doing that. I mean, it's kind of like the basics is what you're supposed to do, but it's still good to hear it. We're not necessarily a step ahead by thinking that way, but I'm glad we're getting it done because there's probably an organization or two out there not doing that. But of course, this takes me to the part of the video where we talk about who's next. Who's potentially going to get signed next? Like he said, there are players currently on the team that they definitely want to re-sign, and who are those players? Obviously, Daron Payne is the biggest question mark right now. He may not necessarily be the highest priority as far as talent and skill set, but as far as contracts ending, because his last season is this season, 2022. He has an $8.5 million cap hit, and there's literally no more deal after this. He is an unrestricted free agent, and this is his 5th year option year. I mean, this is literally it. This is it. After this regular season, he's officially an unrestricted free agent, which means, franchise tag, let him walk. Do you trade him before he becomes an unrestricted free agent some part during the season? Do you extend him? I think franchise tagging is like the worst option because we've already seen that doesn't work out with us. That's like the last option we need to go with. I think at the worst, outside of franchise tag, you let him walk for a 3rd round compensatory pick, but I'm hoping we find a way to pay him. Hopefully he takes some type of hometown discount, because with a lot of the names that we're about to talk about soon after Daron Payne, I don't know how you're able to pay Daron Payne and those guys. But we'll see, man. Again, Daron Payne's contract ends after this season. This is the final year of his deal. Then you also have linebacker Cole Holcomb. Don't forget about him. This is the final season of his contract as well. He is a $2.5 million cap hit right now. And then after that, he's an unrestricted free agent as well. Remember, even though he was drafted a year after Daron Payne, he was drafted in the 5th round, no 5th year option available. So he is on the 4th and final year of his contract. We're going to have to pay him. Now, I'm not really worried about Cole Holcomb. I think he'll take somewhat of a team-friendly deal. I love Cole Holcomb. I'm really happy to have him as a linebacker, but I'm not exactly sure if the rest of the league values him as much as we do, and he may also notice that as well. And the fact that he's such a homegrown talent developed here, again, a 5th round pick to a starting, literally the best linebacker on this team. And that's not necessarily saying much with not a great linebacker group, but that's still really notable. This is the team that developed him. This is the team that drafted him out of North Carolina. And I think ultimately we will get the Cole Holcomb deal done. Daron Payne, no idea. Not highly likely at all. But Cole Holcomb, I'm pretty sure we'll get that done. Same thing with Cameron Curl. 7th round pick, drafted here, given an opportunity here, opportunity of a lifetime, and developed here. Such a severely underrated player. I think we will ultimately end up signing him long term as well. But at least for Cameron Curl, his contract doesn't end until 2023. So we have him this season and next season, and then he'll be an unrestricted free agent. He doesn't hit free agency till 2024. So that's not something we necessarily have to worry about right now. But again, if you're running an NFL franchise the right way, you do have to think about that. You need to be planning at least 3 years ahead. And just like Cole Holcomb, I think the Cameron Curl deal will get done. I think for his talent and his skill set, he will be underpaid. He's just severely underrated, man. And I think ultimately him and Cole Holcomb will take very team-friendly deals. I feel like both of those guys aren't valued as much as they're supposed to be outside of this franchise, and that it's a mutually beneficial relationship between those two players in this franchise to where we both bring the best out of each other. And so I think ultimately those guys will sign back for, maybe not severely team-friendly deals, but something to where we get it done and we don't have to worry about it. I don't think we're going to have too much of a headache dealing with Cameron Curl and Cole Holcomb. Now, Montez Sweat, I'm a little bit bit worried about. Not as much as Daron Payne, but I don't think Montez Sweat is as likely as a Cole Holcomb and a Cameron Curl. Even though he feels like a higher priority, it's just, I mean, at defensive line, we're paying so many guys already. Jonathan Allen, I'm pretty sure they're going to pay Chase Young. And I think Montez Sweat is going to be a big priority, not even just contract wise, but actual player wise, definitely more than a Daron Payne. And if you're gonna pay 3 defensive linemen big money, I think Daron Payne would be the odd man out. But luckily for Montez Sweat and us, especially the Washington Commanders, his contract, just like Cameron Curl, doesn't end until after the 2023 season. Remember, we drafted him in the first round. We had the 5th-year option. The 5th-year option, we already picked it up, and it will officially activate the 2023 season. So he's not a free agent until 2024. So we technically don't have to worry about him until 2024, but we can try to negotiate some type of contract extension before then. But I doubt we'll do that before we figure out this Daron Payne situation, whether it gets done or we trade him or just let him walk or whatever. And then outside of those most notable names, as far as who's going to be free agents after the 2022 season, like immediately after this season, you have Wes Schweitzer, who I really hope we sign back. I think we will. He's arguably one of the best backup offensive linemen in the NFL. I mean, he can literally start at center, left guard, or right guard for you. That's why I love him as a backup. You also have Trey Turner, who's I think slated to start at right guard for us right now. And if everything goes well and we have another top 10, top 5 offensive line type of season, I hope we end up signing him back long term as well. You have Cam Sims. I hope he goes out there and is a great target for Carson Wentz if everything goes well. Hopefully we can end up signing him long term, but I mean, it seems like we always keep signing him to 1-year, 2-year deals, so we'll see how that goes. Then you have technically your franchise kicker and Joey Sly. We just signed him to a 1-year deal this offseason. I hope he goes out there and performs well enough to where we go ahead and get him locked down for like the next 4 years and get that out the way. Taylor Heineke as well. I like him as a backup quarterback. We'll see if we end up re-signing him. You have F.A. Obata, a free agent we just brought in, depth on the defensive line. If everything goes well and he plays well enough, maybe we'll bring him back. You have Tyler Larson, who's technically your immediate backup center, because Wes Schweitzer is technically a backup left guard and right guard, even though you honestly prefer him to start at center if Chase Roulier is hurt. But then if Chase Roulier gets hurt and one of the guards gets hurt, then you move Wes Schweitzer to guard, and then you start Tyler Larson at center. And either way, I mean, he's a depth piece. I don't think that'll be a difficult contract to get done. Troy Apke, contract is ending soon. Danny Johnson, David Mayo. It's a lot of names here. There's a lot of guys that have been here for a couple of years already, like Jeremy Reeves, and then there's also guys like Alex Erickson, who we just signed this offseason, the 1-year deals that we're going to take a look at and see what's going on after the season. And then 2024, I don't want to dive into this too far, but I mean, William Jackson, Curtis Samuel, Kendall Fuller, Bobby McCain, JD McKissick, Cornelius Lucas, like I already said, Montez Sweat, Antonio Gibson, Sadiq Charles. I mean, he looked pretty decent towards the end of last season. If there are injuries, Sadiq Charles may end up playing a lot this season and may end up looking like something. We'll see. Khaleke Hudson, like I already mentioned, Cameron Curl, James Smith-Williams, probably the direct backup to Chase Young while he's out. So he's probably going to get a lot of time and a lot of opportunities to show what he can do until Chase Young comes back healthy. Casey Toohill, Jared Patterson, and my boy Sammis Reyes, man. Again, those names I just gave right there are not free agents until the 2024 season. So we have 2 more seasons with them. But this is something to think about, man. It's getting ugly. We're going to have to bring all of these guys back somehow, or at least a lot of them. And then, of course, you still want to sign free agents from other teams if the opportunity presents itself. I mean, we may be signing Anthony Barr sometime in August, so we'll see how that goes. But yeah, man, that's the end of this video. Please get in the comment section. Let me know how you feel about everything discussed in this video, especially the Terry McLaurin part of it. And also, who do you feel like are the highest priorities for us to get and re-sign long term for this team? Who we're gonna bring back? And also, I mean, not even just priority wise for the team, who do you prefer for us to bring back? Who do you think is the most realistic? Who do you think will just end up walking? Do you think Daron Payne will end up just walking? Do you think we'll trade him? Do you think we're gonna end up franchise tagging them, or any other guys that seem important to the team? Who do you think will just end up letting walk when their contracts end, like Kendall Fuller in 2 years, something like that? Definitely get in the comment section, let me know how you feel about everything discussed in this video. And of course, man, please leave a like on this video if you liked it, if you learned anything. And again, man, I always appreciate the support, man. Shouts out to all of my sponsors, especially my Pro Bowl sponsors whose name you see scrolling on the screen right now. I'm working on getting some live streams out there, opening the phone line so y'all can call in for whatever topics we're talking about, all of that type of stuff, man. I'm about to get more active. And again, man, make sure y'all join the Discord in the description of this video and also in my community tab for my channel. Man, definitely go join that Discord, man. It's the best Commanders Discord doing it, man. I endorse it, man. I was in there for like 8 hours just talking football the other day, man. Y'all gotta join it, man. And I'll definitely be joining in there occasionally, quite often, to chop it up with everybody and everything. So make sure y'all join that. I'll catch y'all later. I'm out.